I'm Paul Larson, and it's time to shine the spotlight on the opera star journalists call America's favorite soprano. Singer Renee Fleming invited me to her Manhattan penthouse recently, where we talked about the origins of her career, her early political aspirations, and her passion for music. The sound of Renee Fleming appeals to opera lovers. The taste of La Diva Renee, the New York dessert named after her, appeals to chocolate lovers. The aroma of the Renee Fleming iris appeals to, well, you get it. The woman has her own flower, just like Barbra Streisand. Did you have big dreams when you were little, and what were they?
I had very big dreams when I was little, but I wanted to be First Lady President, which sadly the job is still open, and next generation. And I also, I wasn't really thinking much about performing at the time because I wasn't a natural performer. I didn't enjoy the idea of being on stage or being in front of people or asserting myself in that way. It was more, I was a little bit shy and more interested in solitary pursuits. So I had to learn that side of things.
Eventually, the performing arts reached her before politics could.
You know, I don't think I chose performing. I think performing chose me. It was an interesting kind of step-by-step development that led me in this direction. You know, I wasn't independent-minded enough as a young person to go my own way, and music was the path of least resistance.
The fact that you're from Rochester, New York, in upper western New York State, how has that shaped your attitude toward music?
Rochester shaped me tremendously, not because of the city, but because my parents were both high school vocal music teachers. So at the time, there was in fact a thriving musical community. There was Rochester Opera Under the Stars in the summer. There was Rochester Opera Theater. My parents both performed, and so did we. And of course, I was in the pre-college division at Eastman. So I had a fantastic cultural upbringing. I became more and more involved, more interested in it, and I was mostly interested in singing jazz. You know, I went to the Crane School of Music up in Potsdam, New York, and became very involved in not only the jazz department there, but really singing with the top players in clubs and weekends for 2.5 years. And that's where I also connected with performance, because that was trial by fire. I was forced to learn how to perform, to entertain, really. It's not just getting up and singing a formal concert or performance. It's finding interaction with the audience, communicating with the audience, and that's something that has served me incredibly well. I'm not sure that I would be where I am without that crucial experience.
During graduate studies at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, study in Europe, and the Juilliard School, Fleming changed her tune from jazz to opera. She soon found success with major roles at the Metropolitan Opera and other leading companies. Well, you've said you were a shy adolescent, and you've described yourself as feeling like a wallflower. How do you reconcile that with being a star on the stage at the opera?
I don't think it's uncommon, actually, for performers to be shy. I mean, I think actually performing is a way to overcome shyness, a way to overcome insecurity. And some people are really driven by that. I mean, I've met people who are famous, for instance, as comedians, who are actually quite serious and quiet in person. So you never really know what's driving someone.
How do you find yourself personally relating to the roles of classical opera, considering that the time period is so far removed from our own?
One of the things I enjoy most about my work is being steeped in history. One really couldn't be in classical music and not, and particularly in opera, and not enjoy history, because we're playing characters from other times. We have to understand certain conventions. We have to be able to move in period costumes, some of which are 8 feet wide, and handle fans and not look tremendously awkward. I've worn wigs that are 3 feet tall. So there's an enormous amount of skill and experience that goes along with that. One thing I also have learned, and that makes it so wonderful, is that people don't change very much. The characters in a Mozart opera are so similar to us today. I mean, it's a little bit sad in a way, because you think, well, I thought we'd be done with those problems. Don't we learn from history? And presumably we don't really learn from history. Human nature, human interaction between men and women is always fraught, always complicated, and there's room for joy, for sadness, and also for some comedy too.
What did you enjoy about performing on Sesame Street?
Sesame Street was so much fun, although my children were tremendously disappointed because the magic was gone. Seeing the puppeteers was hard for them. I loved it. I had a wonderful time.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The singer says reaching young audiences through both television and live opera performances for school groups will help keep the art form viable in the 21st century, at a time when many opera companies are struggling to keep the curtain raised.
Children have no preconceived ideas about classical music or about opera. It's entertainment like anything else. They cheer for the heroine and boo the bad guy, and they get very involved.
Fleming sings the praises of PBS television for its broadcasts of opera, and she's grateful for the Met Live in HD transmissions in movie theaters. The transmissions allow a high-definition signal from the Metropolitan Opera in New York to appear on large screens all over the world.
The HD broadcasts in movie theaters have been, I think, the best invention in opera since super titles. And as I travel the world and sing in cities and in countries where there either is no opera, or in this case where you can now, for very much less money, go to the theater and have opera at the highest level. And it helps me. I sing in a place in as far off as Ecuador or South Africa or Scandinavia, and people say I loved you, and whatever they saw at the Met the last season. And that's a real gift. I have an audience in a place where I've never been.
Seriously though, how do you balance the acting demands with the vocal demands?
Well, you just let carried away.
Between acts during the Met Live transmissions, Fleming interviews the performers backstage.
Well, interviewing is really fun for me because it's not my day job, so there's no pressure for me. I can just enjoy it, and it's certainly, in every case, a subject I know really well. I know what every performer is experiencing, how it feels to be on that stage, and what the pressures are. So it's very organic. It's second nature. I don't even really have to think about it. This is the test of all time of a great soprano. It's the test of singing, of acting. You're breaking our hearts. It's a long day for me, but it's a lot of fun.
Fleming endorses her own dessert and perfume, but she says one of her most important roles is endorsing opera itself. Her activities in addition to singing have made her a high-profile spokesperson for opera.
I really want to spread the word. The problem we're having today with classical music in general is that people aren't necessarily exposed to it either in school anymore, or, for instance, when I grew up, everybody sang in church choirs, or absolutely, I had fantastic school programs, public school programs, and those opportunities have lessened. So it's very important, I think, to find other ways for spreading the word, because it's not that everyone will love it, but we want to make sure everybody can have that exposure.
What are the challenges associated with being at the top of a career in opera?
One feels that the audience has come because of your reputation, because of a previous performance, and one always feels that sort of inner pressure to achieve the standard as it was before and plus more. So that's, I'd say, the most difficult aspect. There's also something about success which is somewhat isolating, which, people want to treat you with a little bit with kid gloves and be a little bit careful. And for those of us who don't change very much with success, it can be sometimes disconcerting to have this sense of being apart from everyone else.
Do you still have dreams? Is there something you would love to do in life that you just haven't done yet?
I'm really fortunate. I've sung 51 roles. There's no repertoire where I think, there are many other things I could sing because I'm a lyric soprano, but there's nothing that I think, oh wow, I really need to do that. So no, I have to say I'm very content. I'm continuing to grow artistically, challenge myself with new music, new concert repertoire, new recital repertoire, very few opera roles, and just enjoy spreading the word.
Spotlight is a segment of the program Mountain Lake Journal Extra, a production of Mountain Lake PBS. Head to our website at mountainlake.org for more information.